Salutations, listeners. Si valas valeo.
Vala Bagulis.
No.
Thank you for tuning in. This is Three Men and a Basement, and we are the Ultra Crepidarians. My name is Colin McLeod.
Mark Culp Hair. Action Jackson.
It was the third that got us there.
Yeah.
That really landed.
It was a comfortable
It was, yeah. He just sort of settled into it like a warm bath. In this movie review podcast, we like to deliver to you, the listener, the person on the other end of this microphone who's listening through a speaker.
I thought the laptop was on the other end of the microphone.
No, you're thinking of something entirely different.
Yeah, no, this...
You're way off course.
As per usual.
God, Jesus.
Damn it.
Give him a map, Mark, for God's sake.
Yeah, Jesus, Mark.
You know what? Full circle.
We like to deliver an average schmuck's opinion about hidden gems in the wide world of cinema.
Or below average.
Yeah, or slightly above average.
As long as it's not below the belt.
Let's say plus or minus 2 standard deviations
Yeah.
of familiarity. In this show, we're trying to target movies that are not total blockbuster smashes, ones that are not so obscure that you couldn't get your hands on a copy even if you wanted to. Instead, we like to aim for that delightful sweet spot right in the middle. That's what the sweet spot is. Mark is making a face. I think we hit his sweet spot.
Ooh. You really did, and it feels good.
Tickles in more ways than one. Fuck. Yeah, films that maybe you've heard of, maybe you haven't, maybe you wanted to see and you weren't able to. We review those movies and let you know our opinion about whether or not you need to track them down and see them. This week, in the 56th episode of the podcast.
My God.
Wow. 56.
We're approaching retirement.
We are. I've applied for an AARP card.
It's been 84 years.
Since what?
Since
the beginning.
Since the beginning of what? I'm lost. Tell me.
The
Titanic.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I got it right at the end there. I was like, hang on, I know this. Rose.
Turning slightly faster.
Yeah, see, I had this glossy-eyed innocence in it
Right.
that you've come to expect.
Yes.
See, I had a big old ship and a tiny rudder, and, I couldn't corner worth a damn.
Like the Spanish Armada.
I know. That was my nickname in college, Little Rudder.
Oh.
I thought it was Spanish Armada.
A little bit of both. A lot of swimmers, a lot of boats, Little Rudder. Oh, man, I got taken down in a storm.
Big package, though.
Yeah. Took a lot of wood. Okay.
We get all the laughs out now.
We do, because this is not going to be a jolly episode. Okay, in this, the 56th episode of the podcast, we reviewed the movie...
Rabbit Proof Fence.
Rabbit Proof Fence.
I would not have been able to guess what this movie was about just by the title.
Not a chance.
No, yeah, it is kind of cryptic, especially for we'll get into it, it's based in Australia, to a non-Australian audience. That is an exceedingly cryptic title.
Yeah.
Cherries on this one.
Big one over here.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Over here, too.
I'd seen this movie once before, and it was probably shortly after the movie came out. Like Whale Rider, this was a movie that was introduced to me through an anthropology class, which kind of tracks with the themes of the movie.
Yeah, very much so. Like, totally separate movies, but cut from the same cloth, I think.
Yeah.
All right, so specs on this movie, Rabbit Proof Fence, 2002 film, rated PG.
Yep.
Yeah.
You think?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with PG. I think it's one of those things where, like Victoria and Abdul, like Whale Rider, PG movie in that it has a lack of objectionable content. However,
I was going to say...
it's not a kid's movie.
No.
Like, the themes are fucking dark, and it's a difficult watch, not because it's bad, but because it's emotional, and it deals with very serious things and serious concepts. And quite frankly, most kids, it wouldn't hold their interest.
No.
You know what's interesting is that, like, there are horror movies out there that are rated R because they're just so fucking scary, and not because of obscenity or graphic content.
Right, like the objectionable content isn't present, and therefore, technically, it passes the rating.
Right, but it still gets that R rating. This, I feel, would be a candidate for something that should be bumped up in rating, even though the content isn't there, because the subject matter is just that heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you almost need like a 2-axis graph, right? Of like on the x-axis going on the left from like, child appropriate material all the way to the right, like adult themes, adult material. And on the y-axis, potentially objectionable content.
Right.
Right? Like severity of potentially objectionable content.
There's no nudity, there's no swearing, there's no like death scenes.
No violence.
No violence. But on the other end of that, you've got these very adult themes dealing with very scary circumstances.
Yeah, serious shit.
There's implied violence, and we'll tease that apart.
Yeah, there is. You're right. But then again, there's implied violence in The Incredibles.
Yeah.
But yeah, so PG film, yeah, maybe. 1 hour and 34 minutes.
I will say it felt a little longer, but not in a bad way.
I think it's meant to feel like a...
It felt like an uncomfortable silence.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right. And I think it's because the scenes where they're trying to draw out to make the journey in the movie seem protracted, make the film seem protracted as well, but it doesn't make the film seem like boring or like, it's not moving. It's well shot, but I totally understand and agree that it feels a little long, but not really.
Right. Yeah, it felt longer than 94 minutes.
Yes.
I feel like if this movie were made today, it would be 30 minutes longer, and I probably wouldn't enjoy it as much.
Right.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. They'd
I-
probably belabor the point and like sacrifice the filmmaking for like, we really fucking gave it to him with... Yeah, it's heavy. We gave it to him with both barrels. Like, this is so artsy. And it's like, yeah, but like they got the fucking point across in this beautifully in 90 minutes,
Yep.
I completely agree. Okay, we're dancing around it. What the fuck's this movie about? Do we have a guy who can tell us about this movie? What it's about?
I think there is a guy.
What's his name?
Oh God, what is his name?
We don't need him to really tell us about it as much as like he could just read the description if he
could
wants.
just read it.
Yeah, okay, I know a guy. Let me
Read the description.
Read description. Yeah,
Oh
read
yeah,
description.
that's the guy.
Yeah, let me see if he's there. Hey, Reed, where you at? I'm over here, man. Okay, here we go. Okay, so
Reed is a Jamaican woman.
Well, we all got to start somewhere.
Which
you know?
we do.
And
listen, we all start off as a Jamaican woman somewhere.
some of us do, some of us don't.
Who are you today, Reed?
Yeah.
Jamaican women have a tendency to start off as Jamaican women, and
Yeah.
by and large, they remain Jamaican women.
That's accurate.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Reed will not be doing a Jamaican accent today.
That's probably
I just heard Mon in there.
Hey, man! No,
I thought it was Mark.
Here
I
we
thought
go.
he was saying Mark.
Did he? And I just misheard it, and then I created this like Jamaican woman
entirely
narrative
possible.
all over my head.
In 1931, 3 half-white, half-Aboriginal girls escaped from being plucked from their houses to be trained as domestic staff and set off on a journey across the outback. Okay, I've used that accent for movies with a little bit more levity. This is a heavy movie.
Yeah. We got to inject it as much as we can with the levity because this episode's going to be so fucking heavy if we don't.
Right.
Yeah.
But you're right. This is among the darker movies that we've done.
It's like you take... Well, no. I'm going to save that for after the spoiler tag. Never mind. I've got something interesting to say, everybody.
Mark's got something interesting.
That would be a first.
Mark it down.
Stick around. You take that back. You suck that air, that dank, offensive air that you just spat out. Suck it back in.
I sucked it for you, Mark.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Keep sucking. Jackson, I noticed you didn't suck.
I didn't.
You suck it.
I just sucked Jackson's.
Suck it. Okay. All right. Take one for the team.
Yep.
Oh, he didn't. Not making that joke. The joke was going to be he didn't spit mine out, but he did spit yours out.
I thought we collectively agreed on the pineapple juice, no?
Yeah.
Well,
Doesn't seem like it.
pulp, no pulp.
Oh, that was the problem. Yeah.
Something.
Yeah.
The Pope?
Yeah.
There's Pope.
Yep.
Oh, man. Oh, it's got a good chew.
I like the mouthfeel.
Yeah, right. We need a spittoon.
Look, okay, when you're really virile, sometimes it's got chunks.
Sometimes it's basically cottage cheese.
That's how it gets the job done, Colin. That's how it gets the job done.
It sticks to the walls.
This isn't skim milk over here,
A
okay?
dab will do you. It's basically just plaster.
Just open the window. It'll waft in. A lot of relatives.
Oh, man. Oh, we have fun. We have fun. What Genrys we got in this movie?
Oh, okay, so we've got...
Some good ones.
Ooh, My favorite genre of all time, of any movie I've ever seen, desert adventure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
Desert adventure.
That's
is totally
the
a
best.
genre.
I love a good...
Totally a genre.
Yeah. Right up there with coming of age.
Okay, what the fuck other desert adventures can you think? Like, The Mummy? Sahara?
Rango?
Yeah, those are the only ones that
Rango? Like, none of those are even fucking close to this movie.
No.
I find this so objectionable.
It's a desert adventure.
I plant my fucking flag that this is not a desert adventure movie. IMDb, with your AI fucking generated piece of shit genres, I'm coming for you.
Yeah, can we define adventure for a second?
A romping good time.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Adventure is out there. It's like this exciting, like, go get it.
Brendan Fraser could be around any corner.
Yeah,
Good times are had by all.
absolutely. This is not that.
No, this is not an adventure movie.
No.
The fuck?
Desert slog.
Coming of age. No.
Nope.
Nope.
No.
They're the same fucking age.
From start to finish.
From start to finish. And they don't
Coming of trauma.
They don't become somebody else. Not fucking like The Sorcerer's Apprentice,
No.
where Jay Baruchel's character is a functionally different human being at the end than he was at the beginning. These people are the same.
Yep.
Here's one. Survival. I feel like that fits a little better.
I feel
Yeah.
like it fits. It's not a genre. In the same way that, like, Australia is not a genre, but would be a subject that is close to this movie.
How about docudrama?
Well, you could go docudrama, you could say period drama, or just drama.
Yeah.
What if you just
Pick one.
the last one and
Yeah.
leave it?
I hate all of this, and I am just raging right now.
Biography?
Yes.
That is accurate.
Because that is a genre that humans use.
Yeah.
IMDb, what are you doing here? And you also added adventure. You already got
Desert adventure.
Well, I guess there were times where they weren't in a desert.
Desert adventure sounds so plucky. I hate it.
I love it. I would love to go on a desert adventure.
Desert adventure.
Can we go on a desert adventure, guys?
Bring your plastic bucket, guys. We're going on a desert adventure. Yeah.
So I know that a lot of people in big IMDb listen. Just
IMDb.
know you're on notice, okay?
Big IMDb.
You're on
That's
my
it.
list.
It's a fucking. It's a conspiracy.
You're on my list, IMDb.
Fucking big IMDb just controlling this shit.
Well, yeah.
It's the. You know what, man? It's the banks and it's the fucking corporations and it's the big IMDb. Fucking pharma, but really big IMDb.
Yeah.
They're pushing all these fucking genres, putting us in a little box.
You box me up, put me in a database,
Bitch.
bitch. Fucking get him, Mark. Get him.
Who's the bitch that got
But
me?
yeah,
It usually is. I'm sorry.
zing. Yeah. Okay. So the only ones on here I'm gonna fucking even entertain are drama and biography.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all
they're-
you fucking
there's
need.
they're the only ones that are. It's just not fucking hot.
Survival's not a
garbage.
genre. It's just a descriptor of what happened.
Yes, most people in most movies survive.
Nobody died.
No, even in Titanic, many people survived.
Yeah.
Like
Well, that was a water adventure.
that was.
Oh, yes, Mark. Yes. Ocean adventure.
Oh my god, Mark, that's so good. Oh my god. Fuck, that's so good. It was a water adventure. Please, somebody look up Titanic real quick and just tell me if that is listed as one of their shit tags.
Oh.
If it fucking
no.
says water adventure,
Oh no. Oh no.
I like laughed and then I was like, oh no, but
It might be.
but it could.
Okay. We have disaster,
Yeah.
epic, period drama, romantic epic, tragedy, tragic romance, drama, romance.
Okay, literally, you could just split all of those fucking up. You don't need to combine them into a brand new special snowflake tag.
Or
Like,
repeat yourself with epic and romantic epic, or tragedy and tragic romance.
but it's also kind of like a tragic romance drama, you know, if
Yeah.
you think about it. But it's also kind of like an epic romance drama tragedy, really, if you like analyze it.
Well, it's definitely
yeah.
a one-man adventure. Or a one-man army. I'm sorry.
Definitely a
I'm
one-man
sorry.
army.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Okay, so back to reality. Well, there goes gravity. Who we got in this movie?
Well, our principal cast is 3 young girls. Evelyn Sampi plays Molly Craig.
The main character.
Tiana Sansbury plays Daisy Craig Catabili, and Laura Monahan plays Gracie Fields. They're the 3 young
Aboriginal girls.
Aboriginal girls that this story is about.
None of them, I would say, are of note to a wider audience.
No.
I would say this is probably the case. Just their IMDb photos are literally from this film.
Yeah.
So I would say this is probably the most high-profile thing that they've been in.
Evelyn Sampi, who plays Molly, she's been in 2 movies, this and The Circuit. That's it.
I can say confidently that all 3 of those girls, but especially the main girl who played Molly, acted the fucking shit out of this movie.
Absolutely.
Oh my god, their acting was so incredible. And I don't know if they won awards for this, but they fucking should have.
Yeah.
We've also got Kenny Branagh in this movie.
Yeah.
Does anybody know Kenny Branagh?
Yeah. He was in Thor, wasn't he?
Kenny Branagh?
Was he in Thor?
Yeah.
Kenneth? You talking Kenneth?
Oh, Kenneth! Kenneth Branagh.
He's that Hamlet guy.
Yeah.
Is there Hamnaguden?
Yeah.
Emma Thompson's ex-husband.
Oh,
That's true.
didn't know. I also recognize Jason Clarke
Yeah.
from such hit films as Zero Dark 30.
And Terminator Genesis.
I think that might have been the thing that I actually No. The thing I recognized him most from was from Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
Oh, yeah.
He's got kind of a funny-looking face.
Yep. It helps.
He's kind of a funny dude.
Not so much in this.
Not so much in this.
Not so much in this. We've also got David Gopolo. One other role that I do recognize it from, and a general audience might as well, is from Crocodile Dundee. He's an Aboriginal actor, and in that movie, he plays the sort of like young guy. He's about, not super young, but he's the guy that Crocodile Dundee meets like in the bush, and he's like wearing jeans, but also kind of dressed up for like an Aboriginal ceremony, and he's kind of joking back and forth with Paul Hogan's character, Mick Dundee, like, he's kind of a city boy, but his dad's like a tribal elder, so he gets nagged to like come back and kind of do ceremonies and stuff like that. And he plays a role later in the film, and then also I think he's in the second one as well.
Yeah. He was in Australia and Faraway Downs, as well as King George.
He's a really good actor.
He is.
He's got there are just some actors and actresses that just have like a natural intensity.
Yeah.
And he has that.
Well, the first time you saw him, he was just walking past on a horse, and like I just noted like his expression. Like,
Oh,
he was
yeah.
very, what's the word? Like he felt very invested in the role, or at least I don't know if that makes any sense, but like it didn't feel like he was acting. It felt like he was living and breathing the role. It was really good.
Yeah,
really
like a magnetism almost about him.
Yeah, even though his lines were very sparse.
Yeah, he did more with his face than I think everybody else did with their words.
Yeah. The last one I want to mention is Ningali Lawford. She played Maud, which was Molly's mom. Oh my god, her character. She acted the shit out of that character.
Oof, yeah. I say oof because goddamn, like her scenes were
Oh my
rough.
god, it hurt so much.
Okay, would we recommend this movie?
100%.
Yep. I wouldn't say like sit down for like a casual watch.
No.
Like, oh yeah, it's a Friday night, just pop it in, popcorn.
No, but if you like biopics
like-
and like historical...
And incredible stories.
Oh my god.
Like, fucking watch this movie, like, post-haste.
I would put it on the same, like, recommending shelf as Whale Rider, as maybe even The Navigators. Like, a movie that has a lesson. Maybe it's the wrong word, but, like, you're there for a reason. You're not there to necessarily be entertained.
Yeah, but I would say, I would agree with Whale Rider, but I would take a departure from The Navigators only in that I felt like from a writing, directing, and sort of like entertainment, not entertainment, that's a strong word, but like...
Yeah, very different.
From a viewing perspective, I think it has a substantial leg up on The Navigators.
Fair. And I guess what I mean to try to like communicate is that it's one that I didn't necessarily enjoy watching, but I enjoyed having watched and having experienced because it's hard to watch.
It hurt.
Because of the subject matter and because I was invested in it, which is the reason why, like that's the reason why a drama is good. You know, you're not having fun, but like you are at the same time. You know?
Yeah.
So that's 3 recs around?
Yep.
Yeah.
So does that mean we're ready to... That was a water buffalo, I believe.
Yeah, everybody's got one.
Everybody's got a water buffalo?
Yours is fast, but mine is slow.
Where'd you get them? I don't know.
Everybody's got a water buffalo.
I'm having a stroke.
It's called
sure.
VeggieTales. Okay.
I'm confident that
Everybody's got a baby kangaroo. Yours is pink, but mine is blue.
I don't know if you guys know this, but like at least in my head, what you're saying is rhyming,
Yeah.
and I think I might be dying.
I feel like you're just not quite cultured enough. It's called VeggieTales.
But
Maybe
but
look it up.
Colin,
Is that short for vegetables?
this is silly songs.
You can
with
grow
Larry.
cultures on vegetables.
The part of the show where Larry comes out and sings a silly song.
That one actually does kind of sound familiar.
My little cheeseburger.
Oh, no.
Cheeseburger.
That's Love Songs with Mr.
Oh,
Lutz.
that's right. Yes, my bad.
Is this
the upbringing?
The content involving the godly cucumbers?
If you
yes.
to talk to tomatoes, if a squash can make you smile, if you like to waltz with potatoes up and down the produce aisle.
See, I find anthropomorphized plants and vegetables specifically to be tools of the devil. And I do not appreciate them trying to corrupt the youth of our nation.
I like the fib from outer space.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Or the grapes of wrath.
I've read that book.
Yeah, it's not the same.
It's not.
Nah.
You know what? Fuck it. Let's just go straight into VeggieTales.
Yeah!
This is now a VeggieTales podcast.
This is a VeggieTales specific podcast?
Yeah.
We will
I'm
only
in.
discuss
I'm
it.
in. Let's do it. Lord of the Beans.
Lord of the Beans.
Oh, that was a good one.
Yeah.
I don't know what the content was, but the notion that VeggieTales could have sullied Tolkien's work.
Oh, they 100% did.
The Tolkien Legendarium. I am fuming on the inside
They
just thinking about that.
absolutely did.
This is an emotional episode for me.
Tolkien got it from the tomatoes.
It's true.
Be real.
No, I believe Denethor got it from... Got the tomato from VeggieTales.
Yeah.
That was reprisal. That was a revenge killing. It was him just, like, aggressively eating that tomato, as Pippin sang. Was like, this one's for VeggieTales. Fuck you.
All right, now that after that brief sojourn into insanity,
Okay, so
We've spoiled it, and here we go.
the veggies are spoiled.
they're spoiled. They're past their due date. How does this movie open?
It opens with some very troubling text. It opens with a text while giving you a brief introduction into what you're about to witness, describing Mr. Neville, who is the chief protector of the Aborigine people, and that he has been given supreme executive power and full control over their lives.
It's a responsibility, Jackson. You know, he doesn't take... okay, I think that there is a fascinating conversation under the surface about how the people who carried out these, what'd you say, like atrocities?
Yeah,
Yes,
I'd use that word.
Yes.
Thought they were in the right.
I was laughing because, like, I literally wrote that down as one of my, like, liner notes. Is I think one of the things that this movie did best, not to, like, jump way the fuck ahead before we even talked about the narrative, but, like, Kenneth Branagh plays Mr. Neville, the chief antagonist in the movie, the one who is conducting and, most importantly, orchestrating the hunt for these girls after they have escaped from the
rescue.
Yes,
And
yeah, right.
recovery.
Rescue. After they've escaped from the, like, prison camp that they were put in. But the most fucked up thing about that is how thoroughly he is convinced that he is doing the good and moral thing. And the thing I love about that is it's so easy to write characters, antagonists, as true villains in that they enjoy suffering, right? Their goal is to cause pain, is to cause discord. His was not.
No.
And the thing I loved about it was, like, in real life, true villains are few and far between. Most people who do truly heinous things, really fucked up things that destroy lives and cause pain and anguish across generations and all of this shit, most of them...
They're not aware in real time.
No, they genuinely think that they're doing the good thing, the moral thing, the godly thing, the thing that is going to better the world. And it is amazing how much harm has been done in the name of the good things, right?
For the greater good.
For the greater good. But it's like that, I mean, you could say this about any religion, but you've heard that old adage of there's no hate like Christian love. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, that just reminds me of that, right? Like, we're doing the good thing.
Yeah.
And it's in the name of the Lord.
We're erasing these cultures from the planet because they're wrong and we need to help them.
They're
We're
heathens.
rescuing them.
Yeah.
We're rescuing them. I think he did such a good job of, like, depending on the context of the conversation, like, he didn't feel like the antagonist. Absolutely he was in this story. But, when he's talking to the people around him, you really get the idea that he genuinely believes what he's saying. And, like, it's just kind of a matter of fact. And, like, almost like he's, not to lean too hard on the Christian metaphor, but like a missionary. Like, he's there to save people.
Yeah. Like, they could have so easily cast him as, like, a, DiCaprio in Django Unchained, right? Like,
right.
Whip them till they bleed.
Right.
And he wasn't that. He wasn't that. He was a guy who was like, we need to do these completely fucked up things, which he didn't even see as fucked up. It wasn't even like a means to an end. He thought they were good things.
Yeah.
They were good.
He genuinely thought so.
This is helpful.
He looked both like compassionate and concerned. And then like in the next scene he's talking about, ratios of like purity, as if it's just textbook, we're trying to rescue our fellow man.
Yeah, this is a fact. Like, it's a fact that white people are better than all other people, and that you need to, like, move all other races towards being more white.
Yeah.
And it is, like...
He
says it, like you said, he says it so clinically, as if it's a foregone conclusion.
Which I think is...
It's crazy.
I think it's fascinating. And, like, I want to understand it better. I wish... I know this is, like, super weird and, like, fucked up to say, but, like, I wish we had a fucking time machine and I could sit down with a person who genuinely drank the Kool-Aid and I could just try to understand it, because it seems so absurd to our modern-day sensibilities.
Honestly, I wouldn't even classify this guy as, like, necessarily having drank the Kool-Aid, because that turn of phrase is sort of...
It's heavy. It's
sort of like, somebody who is selecting to believe things that are so amazingly out of touch in light of other evidence.
Right.
But, like, for the time and place he was in, this was considered, like, settled scientific fact.
Yeah, and the movie
I hate to admit it, but, like, one of my fields of study is stained with the sin of propping this up, right? Anthropology's early years was genuinely to support this heinous and eugenic ideology and lend it scientific credibility.
I mean, it opens in 1931 in Australia. So Australia has been colonized. Cities have been established. White people are basically running the big cities, and the Aborigines have been forced out of their native homes and basically segregated into the wilds. So the Aborigines are left fairly well enough alone as long as they are staying with their own people.
Right.
So the whole point of this is that the Aboriginal people have been intermarrying with the white colonists and are creating what they called half-caste children, which are half white, half Aborigine.
Well, not just intermarrying, but just having babies.
Yeah, just populating.
Two people just getting together and out comes a baby.
Yeah.
Potentially super dark.
Yes, you're right, Mark. There are other connotations to that as well, but sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but it came about because they were building this rabbit-proof fence, title drop, from coast to coast to keep the rabbits out of the farmlands so that they could grow crops. And it's basically like this 1,300-mile
wire fence,
like chicken wire.
It splits Australia in two from north to south, and it is the longest fence in the world, and it is intended to keep rabbits, which are not native to Australia and are invasive, and were just ravaging the coast of Australia, from basically spreading to the other side.
Yeah. Interesting metaphor, isn't it?
Yeah, I didn't make that connection until just now.
Yeah. So basically, these Aborigines that have been creating these half-caste children are being rounded up and put into labor camps.
Well, the children are.
Yeah.
If you are considered a full-blood Aboriginal...
You basically become a slave.
Well, you are not touched, basically. You are left alone if you are considered full-blood Aboriginal. But if you are a half-caste and you are underage, you fall under the auspice of the... What do they call him?
Chief Protector.
Chief Protector. And it is not only, in their opinion, their right, but their duty to round up those children and
rescue them.
Yeah, to quote-unquote, air quote, rescue them and basically steal them from their parents and put them into re-education camps. Basically the exact same thing that also happened in the modern day United States and Canada among Native American children, kidnapped from their families, put into schools, typically religious schools under the supervision of nuns and priests. Obviously massive amounts of abuse, death, and kids trying to escape.
Yeah, they're effectively training them for servitude.
Yeah, and their whole goal is to absorb these people into white culture without watering down white culture.
And white blood.
And white blood.
As they see it.
So their whole goal here...
It feels icky just talking about this.
Is to give them white privilege by eventually breeding the Aborigine out of them.
That just like
I'm gonna let that sit like a fart in an elevator.
Yeah,
like
it just like feels bad in the mouth. Yeah.
Which is why, like, going back a little bit here, how is this... I can't wrap my head around how someone could, like, carry this out or have this ideology and still feel like they're in the moral right. You know, like I want to understand it. I know it's a sick fascination, but like it just seems so backwards to me.
Well,
I cannot connect the dots. Like they weren't reaching out to the Aboriginal people.
No.
They were like rescuing the drops of blood that had spilled over the line.
Yep.
Like,
They were taking the ones that were in the way and then putting them out of the way by absorbing them into white society.
Oof.
So they were removing the inconvenience of Aborigines from their plans to colonize.
Yeah. So I guess going back to the narrative, I believe that this scene is nearly in the beginning. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but Kenneth Branagh,
Yeah.
you know, he's giving a presentation at one point, and when we're still kind of establishing characters, and he's got this slideshow that just kind of shows complexion changes through generations, and he's kind of trying to explain what their mission is, and he has it basically everything that we've been talking about.
It's a horrendously icky scene. Mm-hmm. One of my line items was basically like, if you're not uncomfortable and angry watching this movie, there is something fucking wrong with you. It's an icky movie. From a content standpoint, you know, from like a what it's fucking about, but...
This is a PG desert adventure. What are you talking about?
Yeah!
Desert adventure. So, following the girls, the main arc of the narrative is the three girls are 4, 8, and 14. Mm-hmm. The 4 and the 14-year-old share a mother. The 8-year-old is their cousin, so different mother but close relation.
Same family, yeah.
Same family. They were raised together. They're all, I'm going to use this term because that's what they use in the movie, but I fucking hate it, half caste, right? They're half white, half Aboriginal. Their fathers were men who were working on the rabbit-proof fence, so they sort of came through town and then left sort of just as quickly. Mark's making eyes. There are other implications there, but we don't know the situation, but there's potential for...
You can connect the dots.
Yeah, there's potential for some not-so-good stuff there. So these three girls live with their mothers and then appear on the map that Kenneth Branagh and his department are creating of kids who are of a quote, half-caste nature that could be brought to these re-education camps, again, quote-unquote, and then have the Aboriginal culture kind of smashed out of them. So these three girls get targeted, and when their mothers go to the depot in their hometown, town is maybe a strong word, but in their area, the police or the commission for, you know, Aboriginal relations or whatever the fuck it's called, show up, abduct the three girls, which is one of the hardest scenes to watch. Because,
tear these children out of their mother's arms.
They're literally like pulling them out of the mother's arms as she's like clawing, trying to get her babies back. And then they take off in a car, and then the girls are on a train, and then they're on the back of like a turnip truck, basically. And then they arrive at this, I'm going to, again, call it a school, but it's not a school. It's a fucking prison.
It's a labor camp.
And they show up there, and then again, more text shows up that lets you know they are now 1,200 miles south of Jigalong, which is the town/area that they're from. They are way the fuck away.
Yeah.
Like, they were basically from, let's say, north central Australia. They are now south central and a little bit west.
To put it in perspective, it would be like driving from here in Michigan to like Colorado.
Yeah, or Florida.
Or Florida.
Like a fucking just an enormous
we're
distance.
talking 6 or 8 state lines.
So these girls get put in this religious education camp where the goal is to basically first separate out the children with fairer complexions, basically the kids who are whiter, get to go to an actual school where they learn things and they get sort of taken away. The kids who are of darker complexion stay in this school and get trained, basically the boys get trained to be farmhands and the girls get trained to be domestic servants. So basically they get trained to be slaves.
Yep.
And you know for a fact that once they reach adulthood and they get these quote-unquote jobs, you know they don't get
the white privileges that were promised.
Well, they also don't get remuneration of any kind. Like,
no.
they're not working a 9 to 5.
No.
So this all happens relatively early in the movie, and the girls decide relatively early in the movie. The oldest girl, I should say, decides. Molly. She's, first of all, fucking hella smart.
Oh, yeah.
And it's all like in the eyes, you know? Like she sees a storm and she just decides that's a good cover for me to leave.
Yeah. And takes her sister and cousin with her.
The entire time they're here, she's watching the adults and how they operate and where they move and when they're being supervised and when they're not.
She doesn't respond when it's not in her best interest to respond. You know, like, yeah, she's very intelligent.
Very calculating.
Yeah.
So she basically like Mark said, makes this decision. You know she didn't make the decision to leave impulsively, but she made the decision at that time impulsively because she was like, everybody's going to church, so they're going to have probably a couple of hours before they realize they're gone.
And a lot of noise to cover...
No, a lot of noise, yep. Everybody's in one place that we're not going to be, so we're not going to bump into anybody, as we're leaving. And then also a big rainstorm's coming in, which will cover their tracks.
Yep. And there's this guy, his name is Moodoo, but they call him Tracker Man. And he...
Tragic character.
He is an Aborigine that has become indentured. And at one point they mentioned that his 9 months probation is over and he is looking to leave town, but his daughter is there in that camp, so they think that it's in his best interest to stay. And he doesn't really give him a choice. He makes it sound like it's an option. But realistically, he's like, hey, I know your probation's over, but your daughter's here and we don't want you getting ideas, so we're just going to keep you here. Because that way she doesn't have anywhere to run to.
Yeah, we'll revisit this next year.
Yeah, we'll give you a year and, we'll talk about it then. So he's the Tracker Man. Well, we've established precedent because his daughter keeps running away to see her boyfriend, which is in another camp. And Tracker Man goes and tracks her down and brings her back.
Was it her that ran away? I thought it was a different girl that ran to see her boyfriend.
I'm not sure.
I thought his daughter was the one that was combing her hair.
Olive. Yeah, Olive is Tracker Man's daughter. And they don't actually name his daughter. They just call her Tracker Girl.
Do they?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Which
I didn't notice that.
Which connotates to me that they don't like this girl because her dad is the Tracker. They aren't actively mean to her, but they call her Tracker Girl rather than calling her by her name, which suggests to me there's a level of disrespect there that is well established. Like, she's one of them, but her dad is the reason none of them can leave.
That's fucking dark. Question for you, though. Tracker Man or Tracker Girl? Band name?
Tracker Man.
Tracker Man?
I think I'm on Tracker Girl.
Oh, shit.
Because it's kind of out of left field.
Yeah.
I think tracking is like, stereotypically man's work.
Right.
Tracker Girl.
She's a trailblazer.
Where are you coming from?
Tracker Man does sound, I will say, more like a television show.
Yeah.
And Tracker Girl does kind of sound like it could be like an all-female, a kitty.
Yeah. Or Barlow Girl.
I don't know Barlow Girl, but I'm going to write down Tracker Girl because I like that, and I want to listen to Tracker Girl.
Yeah.
Also, we're desperate to make jokes.
Yes.
About this movie.
Yes.
Tracker Girl!
Yay! Okay, so, the three amigos,
Amigas.
Niñas.
they leave, and that's kind of the meat and potatoes of this movie. It's them trying to follow this rabbit-proof fence.
Yeah, so they
back home.
They walk for a few weeks before they reach the fence. These 3 underage girls, one of which is like 4 years old, walk for weeks with nothing but a sackcloth for clothes and some bottom-of-the-barrel sneakers that they were given when they came to this camp.
They do occasionally bump into people who, at first blush, are kind, and they offer them food. Almost, I think universally, everyone they bump into offers them food and some form of shelter. But some of them end up reporting them, and it ends up being detrimental to their journey.
And these girls don't know how long they've been traveling. Or maybe they do, but they don't ever say it. The only reason we have a timeline for this is because Neville is frantically trying to track down these girls and recover them.
Trying to save them.
And every report he gives is, it's been 3 weeks, or it's been a month, or it's been yada, yada, yada. So we can surmise, based on the distance and the time that they've been traveling, that these girls went on this trek for like 3 months.
Yeah, it did actually say at the end there that it was like 9 weeks, 10 weeks that they were moving. And so, like Mark said, the meat and potatoes of this movie is basically cutting back and forth between the girls trying to walk from the place they were taken to back to Jigalong,
where they were taken from.
And through most of it following the strong north-south fence. And it kind of bounces back and forth between their attempts to travel, stay alive, encounter people, and avoid the people that are hunting them. And they are hunting them fucking hard.
Oh, you see Tracker Man
them
right on their heels most of the time.
And it cuts back and forth between that and basically what's happening everywhere else, including mostly Kenneth Branagh's character, Neville, and his orchestrations.
Which are based in Perth?
Yes, I think you're right. And also Tracker Man and who's the white guy with the funny face? Riggs.
Constable Riggs.
Yeah, he
Jason
actually
Clarke.
He actually works for Kenneth Branagh, and then their mothers and grandmothers. And so it's kind of chopping back and forth. First, they encounter a pair of Aboriginal men who are carrying
Some roasted animal.
Something.
Yeah.
I think
maybe
it
a
was
kangaroo?
Yeah, I think it was. Because I think that was like the tail.
It had a pretty thick tail.
Yeah.
I think you're right. And the Aboriginal men gave him matches.
Yeah, gave him a book of matches and a kangaroo tail to eat.
Gave him some food, and then also basically said, watch out for that tracker man. He's good.
Yeah.
Like, he's on your tail. Then they tried to steal some eggs from a farm and got caught. And the farm woman was basically like, don't steal. Here's some food. And she gave him a couple of coats.
Yeah, she's like, don't steal something, ask for it. And she gave him some new clothes, some coats, and a bag of food, and then was like, all right, get the fuck out of here.
And she also like warns them to like stay away from like the boys or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
So she's in their camp. You know, I'm curious. This is a time before the internet, and more people than you would expect knew of them before they bumped into them.
And this was the days of telegrams and wires.
Yeah, which makes me wonder if at the time when this was going on, because this is based on a true story, if this was big news, and if we were perhaps a little older and we lived on that side of the world, if this story resonates differently.
Yeah.
You know,
Do people know about, that kind of thing?
Yeah, because I've never heard
you're
of
probably
this.
right.
But it seemed to be, it set up that it's a true story, and they also peppered it with like this universal understanding or knowledge that these girls were out there.
Yeah, and it's basically like the reason it became a story was because they got farther than anybody else. Like, everybody else pretty much got caught within a couple of miles of leaving the camp.
At one point, they meet this Aborigine woman working on a plantation sort of setup, and I think her name was Mavis?
Yes.
And she mentions, she's like, that's 800 miles from here. That's farther than anyone's ever gotten.
Yeah.
But she knew.
Yeah, because she's from there.
She went through that camp. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So first they meet the Aboriginal men, then the farm woman, then they bump into just like this random white dude in the desert, and he gives them food and is chatting away, and he's the one who tells them that basically there's more than one fence, and he draws it out in the dirt. He's like, you're on this one, you want this one, and he's like, basically cut through here, and they, at his direction, they leave the fence to go hook up with the other fence, and just by like sheer luck, the tracker who was coming up behind him and the other people who were coming down the other way on the fence missed them because of that.
They were coming to a choke point where they knew they were going, but because the girls had been following the wrong fence for about 100 miles, they missed them entirely.
It's pretty great. That totally fortuitous. And it wasn't like even like the wrong fence necessarily. It was just like, yeah, but at this point you kind of need to go that way, you know? And it was like, Then they met the servant woman who was... She was she was a morally, I don't want to say dubious, but
I don't even know.
There were complications with the servant woman. She understood the situation that they were in, and she was interested in helping them. But by the same token, she basically wanted to use them to stop the owner of the house that she worked in from
abusing her sexually.
Raping her, basically. Yep. So she kind of used the children to prevent him from doing that, and in doing so, he went and called the authorities and almost got them caught. And like it's this very
I
like
can't blame her for that, but
it's a complicated situation, right? Because it's like
sacrifice yourself.
She knows she's putting them at risk.
Yeah.
They're kids. She knows what goes on in this camp, but at the same time, she's trying to save herself from like the hell that she's living in just for like one fucking night. Like it's an amazingly complicated scene to
I just see it as
tease apart. It's
trauma bumping into trauma.
Yes. It's a horrendous situation that they find themselves in, both the girls and this woman, and it's fucked up. And it's one of those things where it's like, I know we're like, oh, this is a PG movie and blah blah blah, it's not objectionable. Like everything that happens is pretty implied.
Yeah,
like, there's nothing like happening where you're like, oh shit, like, kids can't watch that. It's like, because of what they say and what they're implying, but it would probably miss a kid if they were to like, if you were watching this in the family room and like your kids walked into the room, it's not like they would see anything,
Yeah.
Okay, so that was a near miss. With her, they get away, and then they meet Prospector Guy. Who looks like he might be half white, half Aboriginal as well. Mm-hmm. He tries to give them directions. He tries to steer them towards this town.
The train.
Yep.
Urges them to hop on a train.
Yeah, there's this town near there called Mika where they can catch a train and head towards Wanaimi.
What'd you call me?
Exactly. But it's where...
Mark just goes, Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's Wenina. Wenina is the name of the town that Gracie's mother has been taken to. So Gracie is now in this position where
This is the middle one. This is the cousin.
Yeah, the direction they're going is not taking her to her mother. It is taking her to her aunt and her grandmother, and she wants to see her mom. So,
which, like, what 8-year-old doesn't in this situation
right.
like this?
Like, I am so team Gracie at this point. Like, there is nothing on God's green earth that after 900 to 1,000 miles of walking through the bush, and suddenly I hear that my mom is right around the corner, I'd fucking lose my shit.
Yep.
And Gracie's faced with this tough choice. Keep walking with Molly and Daisy, or risk it all to go to the train station, potentially get caught and taken back to camp just to see her mom.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's this heavy scene where the girls split up, and the eldest and the youngest, they keep walking for a little ways, and they decide to circle back around to try to catch up with Gracie. And unfortunately, they do end up finding her at the train station. She's waiting on a bench. They're hiding behind some
railroad ties.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's a terrible situation, but they notice that a police car or whatever comes around the corner as Gracie's sitting on the bench, and they end up capturing her. And then they're on their own.
Yes.
It is a fucking horrible scene.
Oh, it's fucking awful.
You're watching this, like, 14-year-old cry after her 8-year-old cousin that they've gone through so much with and she's lived her whole life with gets abducted in front of her eyes. And then it's not spelled out, but, like, you're sitting there and you're like, she's 14. There's no way she's not going to blame herself for, like, oh, I should have pushed harder. I should have made her come with me instead of going off by herself. Like, I could have, I blah, blah, blah.
Well,
and I just, like, thinking of a 14-year-old going through that trauma in her head over what other people did, like, fuck it, oh god.
And I'm looking at it from the other end too, because she's also racking herself with the guilt of, well, if all of us had been together, all of us would have been caught and we'd still be together, even if it's in a horrible place.
Yeah.
But now Gracie's alone.
Yeah, and I don't even know where she is. Like,
because they could be taking her back to Camp Moore, or they could be taking her somewhere else.
Yeah, they could be taking her to the fucking moon for all I know.
Right.
Like,
that scene that you talked about too is just so fucking heavy, because like the 4-year-old is there, and the 4-year-old isn't crying. Like, she just looks like
she's got that 1,000-yard stare.
Yeah. And then the 14-year-old is just kind of like laying there just like weeping. And it just, the difference in how they're processing what's going on just feels so like palpable.
Well, and they can't even actively mourn because they're still on the run and police are around the corner. If she starts wailing, they're going to find her. And she's got to play it smart and be clever.
yeah. So from there, Molly and Daisy, the oldest and the youngest, the sisters, they continue on following the rabbit-proof fence. And this is another scene where, like, Kenneth Branagh's character sort of shows that as fucked up as it is, like, he believes that he's got these girls' best interests at heart. Like, he kind of wants to ramp up efforts because they're headed for basically the hardest part of the journey, which is to go through the fucking, like, the desert. Like, they've been in, like, sort of scrub land. Like, it's not, like, exactly easy to eke a living on this, like, really scrubby kind of rocky terrain, but, like, they're entering the fucking, like, wasteland. And he's like, basically, we need to get them before they die.
Yeah.
Like, we need to save their lives. And again, it shows him as, like, not a cruel man in the sense that he doesn't like causing pain.
No, he genuinely believes that he's saving these girls.
Yeah. And in this instance, it sort of aligns with, like, a genuine, make sure they don't die.
Yeah.
Like, make sure they don't fucking die. Anyway, so they don't capture them. They make it all the way through the fucking desert. It's brutal. I think pretty much land the plane. Like, they make it to the other side of the desert. It's extremely hard, obviously. They collapse a couple times, and then they find the fence on the other side of the desert, make it to Jigalong, make it to their mother and their grandmother, and then I would say roll credits, and during the credits there is a wall of text explaining that they hid away in the desert. And then this is actually, like, when I tell people about this movie and I'm like, do you care about spoilers? And I tell them the fucking narrative. This is the part to me that's like the biggest fucking 1-2 punch to the gut. This is what makes this movie is like, first of all, they walked 1,200 miles over 9 weeks to fucking get back to their home and their mother and their grandmother. But not only that, they also escaped into the desert and lived in the desert for several years to avoid this from happening. Molly ended up having 2 daughters that were taken from her, and then she walked 1,200 miles to that same camp, helped her daughters break out, and then walked back to their home.
Wild.
So she made the journey 3 times walking, and then her granddaughter ended up getting abducted, and they never saw her again, which, you know, again, is kind of reminiscent of a lot of what physical evidence is turning up, even though people knew it back in the day, like around here, where like there are graves around these, like, you know, old Jesuit schools and stuff in Canada and the United States, where they're finding like the remains of kids that died in their care, and they just buried them, you know, on the grounds, which unfortunately could very well be what happened to her daughter. Or her daughter, I mean, she was abducted at 3. She would know who her mother was probably when she grew up. You know, she could have been sent to live with a family somewhere on the other side of fucking Australia, and then you'd never know. So her granddaughter was a victim that never saw reunification with her family. And then they also said in the outro that Gracie died by the making of this movie, and she never made it back to Jigalong, which sort of suggests that she entered indentured servitude and just worked until she died.
Yep.
I don't know that's the case. They don't say it, but it's kind of implied. And then they give you some extra information about sort of like how long this went on. It went on until 1970. Fucking 1970.
Right.
Like my parents were fucking adults.
Yep.
When this stopped.
Do you know any information about this? 'Cause the movie told us that, and I'm not trying to like split hairs here, but like that's crazy.
Yeah.
I have no reason to believe that that's not true, but that is so crazy.
What?
Just that the movie told us that this went on until 1970, but I am not in any way familiar with
It
any of
definitely did. Like that's something that you cannot just fucking like they wouldn't fabricate for the purposes of entertainment.
Just so crazy.
Oh, it's insane.
So I just looked it up because I was curious, but it looks like Molly Craig, the main character and subject of this film, died 2 years after it was released.
That sounds about right. I mean, she would have been born in...
She was born in 1917.
Yeah, that makes sense. She was 14 in 1931 when this happened.
So she died in January of 2004.
That's fucking crazy.
So she died 20 years ago.
But it's amazing, too, though, that she went through such a harrowing journey and still lived to that age.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
She was almost 90 when she died.
Yeah, the stories that woman probably had.
Well, I mean, this was one of them.
Yeah.
It was the story. Okay, so Woof.
Yeah.
Big woof.
Woof.
Fucking
woof.
You want to transition into likes and dislikes?
Yeah, I can be convinced.
Likes. This falls into a special category of movies that we do where it's difficult for me to find things that I liked because the subject matter is so heavy.
Mark liked the racism.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm not even gonna play the bit.
Nope.
I'm like,
You're like, I'm not saying that.
no. I liked how I felt like they did a good job of portraying the antagonists as humans in that their behavior was reprehensible, but it appeared as though they were still human. That their motivations were at least, and it sounds weird to say, but relatable if you accepted the ideology that they live their lives by.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, you know, I mean, you think about it in like a modern context, it's like, I believe child protective services is a good thing. I think sometimes kids need to be taken away from their parents to protect the kids from their parents. As fucked up as it sounds, these fucking lunatics genuinely believed that their parents were causing them to be at risk simply by being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Simply by existing. But they thought that these kids were in bad or dangerous circumstances. And it also, in addition, sort of like threatened this, like, you know, overarching, like, racial purity ideology.
They didn't have malice.
Yeah, right. They didn't like causing pain. They didn't like cruelty. And I'm sure there were more than enough people in the real world that did like doing that.
Yeah.
But we're talking about the characters in this movie.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm just saying, like, in the real world, there are people who will do these things, who go into professions strictly because it puts them in a position of power over somebody else, and they want to abuse that power and feel powerful by causing harm to others.
Yeah.
That happens a lot. But at the same time, a lot of people find themselves in positions of power and do fucked up things not because they want to, but because they genuinely believe that they're helping.
Yep.
And the characters in this movie were portrayed that way.
Yep.
Okay, there were like 2 or 3 instances where like they used restored footage.
Yeah.
Like historical footage that was
Yeah.
like restored prior to like, I mean, this movie came out in 2002. This was prior to like AI tools being able to do that sort of like, you know, in a
way before that.
in a cinch. Like this footage was restored and colorized
From
It was-
like slides and...
It was really cool.
Yeah.
It was really, really cool. Like the big one that I remember was when they first show Perth. Yeah, exactly. They cut to Kenneth Branagh's character in Perth, and before they do this like scene on the street, and it's literally somebody was rolling a fucking camera in the 1930s in Perth.
I think it was like the frame rate that like caught my eye. There was
Yeah.
something about it that like just it felt different. I don't know.
Yeah, somebody was cranking this motherfucker by hand.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And then they do revisit that at the end when they show the real life Molly and Daisy.
I can't say it enough. This movie makes you feel icky. That's not a like. That's just like a.
It's effective.
It's a thing.
I like that the movie was able to do that. I did not like how I felt. It's one of those intangibles, right? Because I really liked that this movie was so powerful that it made me cringe.
Yeah.
And just shrink back inside myself because it was just so heinous. And we've talked about it ad nauseum that these people didn't feel they were doing anything heinous. These people felt like they were saving lives. They were doing God's work. They were doing the right human thing because they didn't even try to understand the perspective of the people that they were inflicting this life upon.
Yeah. I feel like this movie is a good example of cinema as art.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
It causes you to feel things. You connect to it, even when you don't like it.
How dare you make me feel feelings? Feelings. Are those tingly things inside my body?
Disgusting.
Yuck.
Oh, that's crabs.
Well, that too.
They've migrated inward. Jackson, it's bad. They found the cave.
Crabs with feelings.
Crabs with
Band name?
feelings. Band name.
Band name.
Crabs with feelings. Or Crabs in the Cave.
Is it like Bats in the Belfry?
Bats in the Belfry, Crabs in the Cave. Crabs with Feelings wrote that song.
Yes. Bats in the Belfry is like a mental thing, whereas Crabs in the Cave is very much a physical thing.
Yes. And you pick it up probably near like a dock.
Yeah.
Or like a motel that rents by the hour.
Yeah, usually after the butterflies in the stomach comes the crabs in the cave.
I had a whole bunch of bats in the Belfry, and when I met them, I got those butterflies in the stomach, and then, oh boy, I ended up with the crabs in the cave.
It's the same old story.
And then if you don't get it taken care of, it turns into the Goopadoop.
Oh, I knew you were going to say it! I knew you were going to say Goopadoop. God, it's been so many episodes that we haven't said Goopadoop.
All roads lead to the Goopadoop.
Yes.
That's true. That's true. You know what? People were mistaken when they thought that like all roads lead to Rome.
Yeah.
No. You know what was invented in Rome? The Goopadoop.
Guaranteed.
Damn you, Colin.
Guaranteed.
All roads actually lead to the
Been
Goopadoop.
so long I almost forgot.
You never forget the Goopadoop.
Never forget.
It's not just the aqueducts.
Let's see. Okay, there's a couple scenes that I really liked. There's a scene, it's pretty early after the girls like decide we're gonna follow the fence, and they're like grabbing on, like we said earlier, it's a very simple fence. It is literally like wooden posts, maybe 15, 18 feet spans of wire, and then barbed wire on top. And the girls are like grabbing onto the barbed wire and kind of rocking back and forth with it, like in unison. And then it cuts to Molly and Daisy's mother and grandmother, who presumably would also be the grandmother of Gracie. And they're also holding onto the barbed wire and rocking back and forth. And they're like 1,200 miles apart. Yeah. And it's just this really awesome scene, kind of like showing this connection over distance and the longing between these generations to be together. And not to like sort of push the metaphor, but like this promise that like we're coming and look for us here.
Yeah.
You know, like it's a very emotional scene. And it's one of the few in the movie where it's like, it's not emotional for like
a bad reason.
It's just it's a very like hopeful and magical almost scene.
Yeah.
I really like that. It's just a clip. Like it's like 10
and
seconds.
It's almost like her mother can feel them shaking the fence from 1,200 miles away.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was the implication. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, another scene, like 10 seconds, maybe, really not a whole scene, but one thing I loved, this is getting a little bit into the cinematography, well, I suppose that last scene was too, but when they first, like, set off into the woods, when they first run away from the camp, the camera is like almost stalking them. It's like freehand, but it must have been on some kind of rig because it's pretty high up too. And it's like kind of bouncing up and down slowly and weaving through the trees behind them. And it's such an organic shot. And it really feels like you are something large and potentially intimidating lumbering behind them and following, just sort of nipping at their heels as they're sort of disappearing into the woods and long grass. And it is so awesome. Like, it's such a great way to sort of like subtly telegraph that like there is going to be a lot of stuff right behind these girls.
Yeah.
Just like stuff that is not great. And I really, really loved that shot.
Yeah. Ooh, one more thing that I liked, just not to cut you off or anything, but the sound mixing in this movie.
Oh, Lord.
You know, not to break the fourth wall, but like...
We've got a 5.1 setup here, you know? But, you know, it's pretty advanced sound system.
No, but like, they did a really good job mixing the sound in this movie in a way that stands out from most of the movies that we watch.
Yeah, it literally made me turn my head a couple times. Like,
Yeah, there was a bird sound effect, and Colin looked over at me as if I was making the sound.
Yeah.
well, normally when I hear a bird, it's Jackson.
It's true.
That's
true. Yep.
3 out of 4 times. And this happens, 15, 20 times a week?
At least.
At
Yeah.
least.
Yeah.
I hear a bird sound
15.5.
15.5 times a week.
Yeah.
Yep.
I look over and there's Jackson making a bird sound. And not even a good bird sound. It's mostly just saying quack,
Yeah.
quack,
Bit of a mallard, but...
cluck, cluck. He doesn't know how to do a falcon, so he just goes falcon, falcon,
Punch.
falcon punch.
Falcon kick!
We used to always go falcon dick.
That's a very different kind of attack.
That's a very like
That's a dated video game reference.
that's a very like 13-year-old boy thing to
Yeah.
do. Falcon dick.
That's a 13-year-old boy who is now in his 30s thing to say.
Yeah.
Because my 12-year-old boy would have no effing idea what you were talking about.
True story. True story.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Also,
Smash
LAN parties, guys. Remember those?
Oh, I do.
LAN.
Mountain Dew and, the 90s.
I'm more of a LAN guy.
Okay, let's see. What else we got? Oh my fucking god, Molly is so fucking smart. I love it.
Yes.
She is so smart and capable. And we brought this up earlier, but I wanted to bring it up again because, like, we hadn't really gotten to, like, spoilers are deep into the narrative, so I wanted to, like, give specifics. But, like, first of all, the ability to put together the need to follow the fence and that the fence will take her home. Fucking brilliant. They're running and the tracker's right on their heels, and she runs into a river and then goes upstream slightly and leaves her sister's bag upstream, and then they go downstream. It actually took me a fucking minute to realize what she was doing until I saw the tracker, and I'm like, oh, the tracker's walking upstream, and he's walking upstream because he saw the fucking bag, and he assumes that they went up. It's like, how could the bag have gotten...
Downstream.
How could it have gotten upstream if they went that way?
Right.
If they went downstream, right? Like, it would have to have come from there or higher in the river. Mm-hmm. And so he's walking upstream and he fucking loses them and they go down. Fucking brilliant. Also, when they run out of the servant woman's quarters, like just ahead of, Johnny Law, she grabs a branch and is literally just dragging a branch behind them so they don't leave foot tracks in the dirt. And then also, this one was fucking brilliant. From the house that the servant woman was working, there was a clothesline out there. She steals a couple of socks on their way in, actually. Steals a couple of socks, and then shortly after they leave the next day, they're running and the trackers are right on their heels. They end up finding what I assume to be like a dry creek bed, and it has these like sort of larger cobblestones, and she...
Just walking on the stones.
Yeah, she puts the socks on so as not to leave a footprint, and then carries, this is Molly, the 14-year-old, carries her 8-year-old cousin and 4-year-old sister across these cobblestones in turn so as not to leave footprints so the trackers would lose them and not know where they are. Fucking brilliant. I loved it.
Yep.
And I got to imagine that, like, most of this stuff probably fucking happened. Like, at the end of the day, she managed to stay away from the trackers for 1,200 miles.
And she did that for a reason, and it was probably for reasons like this.
Yes, I absolutely have to believe believe that most or all of these were things that she actually employed in real life, which is fucking amazing. Okay, dude, you won't be surprised by this when you watch the movie, but the score was predominantly like Aboriginal instruments like the didgeridoo, and it was amazing and really set the tone beautifully for the movie. I really, really loved the score of this movie. Again, it shouldn't come as a surprise. It's like a movie about Aborigines, so, you know, it tracks that, you know, if you're making it well, that should feature heavily into the score, but amazing touch and well done. Okay, this isn't a like or dislike necessarily, but like, I gotta fucking bring it up. Oh yeah, I just gotta bring it up. Dude, how the fuck did they bump into like 5 or 6 different people along the way, and every single person / group of people that they like come in contact with was perfectly happy letting this 14, 8, and 4-year-old girl just walk the fuck back into the bush.
Yeah.
Like, like, even if they weren't on the side of these trackers and the people trying to bring them back, like, what the actual fuck? If a child showed up at my house, like, even 14, but like, you know, let alone 8 or 4, if a fucking 14-year-old showed up at my house and I lived in the fucking boonies and they were like going through the goddamn desert and I gave them some food and they were like, okay, bye, and they went to like walk off into the fucking desert, I'd be like, no.
Wait.
Like, stay here. Don't go off and die in the desert.
A large part of that is the cultural significance, right? So the Aborigines that they encountered on their desert adventure... Nothing? No comment?
It really was an adventure.
It was adventurous.
Oh, okay.
They were having a good time.
Yeah, everybody's pretty jovial in this movie.
Yeah.
They feasted.
So the Aborigines that they encountered on their journey warned them, gave them some supplies, and sent them on their way. But most of the Aborigines that they encountered were also out in the bush. This is a cultural thing for the Aborigine people to do, is to take a walkabout, to be out in the bush.
I get that, but at the same time, like, those first 2 guys that they encountered, like, they knew that they were being hunted.
They knew
like,
they were from Moore River.
The fact that the guy wasn't like, all right, why don't we travel with you for, like, a bit? Or maybe we'll walk you to fucking Jigalong or something like that. Like, or just stay with us.
Yeah.
And just, we'll try and keep you away from these fucking guys. They were just like, nope, here's a kangaroo tail, fuck off. Like,
yeah.
Like, oh my God.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you.
They're children.
But yeah, like,
maybe that speaks to the fear of the institution.
Maybe, but he didn't seem afraid. And by the same token, like, the white farm woman, you know, that wouldn't have been, like, a culturally motivated thing. Like, she literally just sent these, like, children off into the bush.
She gave him a coat.
She did. I mean, that's the fucked up thing, is she supplied them for this. Like, that you couldn't even chalk it up to, like, get off my property. And she's just like a crotchety old bitch. It's like, no.
she was a genuinely caring person.
Well, if you're gonna go walking off into the desert, you need sandwiches.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? They're children.
Right.
I don't know. It just kept happening over and over and over. And I'm like, not one fucking person is going to try and stop them and be like, maybe just fucking stay here for like a second.
Well, a couple of them reported them. You know, the prospector dude and the owner of Mavis. Sorry, that left a bad taste in my mouth. They reported to the authorities that these girls were there. And I think part of it was because they knew that the authorities were looking for them. But I think another part of it was, again, these people genuinely thought they were doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Because they knew the girls weren't safe doing what they were doing. And at least if they were in a camp, they were fed and looked after.
I totally get it, but at the same time, like, even the prospector guy, like, he just let them go.
Yeah.
Like, he did report them, and then he, like, later helped apprehend Gracie. But, like, good God, he still just, like, if their safety was his paramount concern, like, he just let them walk away. I don't know.
Yeah,
it struck me. And, like, again, Mark, to your earlier point about, like, modern sensibilities, it seemed so fucked up to my modern sensibilities that I just couldn't lay it down. And every time it kept happening, I, like, internally kind of chuckled a little bit. Like, I was just like, this is
absurd.
Yeah, I cannot believe that they made it 1,200 miles, and this is a true story without bumping into a lot of these people. A lot of these people either were A, probably true, or B, they were amalgamations of actual people that they did encounter
Yeah.
in situations.
Well, yeah.
So by the same token, like this must have happened in real life. They must have just like bumped into a person who was like doing their washing, and they were just like, "All right, have fun on your desert adventure."
They had to. I mean, 1,200 miles.
Yeah.
You know?
No, they
There's
must
no
have bumped,
way you didn't encounter other
they must have
people.
bumped into a bunch of people that just let them walk it back into the wild
And fed them.
and fed them and walked.
and gave them clothes.
wild, just crazy. Okay, the only other thing, this is in dislikes. It's weak. Again, like dislikes on this I think are nitpicky in many respects, but like it did actually draw my attention. Is like, dude, those girls, all three of them, their teeth were fucking pristine.
Yeah.
They had these, like, exceedingly straight and just pearly white teeth. And I'm like, three girls who grew up
In the bush.
in the bush where, like, there was not a toothbrush probably within, like, 30 miles and just pearly white chompers. I don't know. It caught my attention.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it caught my attention.
Right.
Anything else we didn't like? Are we ready to move into dislikes, or are we still on likes?
I have one more very specific like, and it is cinematography. But one scene in particular. So the scene where they are in the woods during the rainstorm. They take shelter under some tree, and they like build this little like nest basically for themselves. The camera pans up and away to watch them exiting their little sanctuary, and then pans up as they're walking away, and then pans back down to see the tracker exactly where they were, looking at the leaves that had been disturbed.
Oh, yeah, that was cool.
The camera went straight up and then straight back down without leaving its track, and the tracker was right exactly where they were. And I was like, oh, that's such a fucking cool shot.
Yeah, because it does give that vibe of, like,
He was on
he was
top of them.
right there. Like, all you had to do was look up and look down, and he'd be fucking right there. Like, yeah, that was a cool shot.
So that one stood out to me because I was just like, oof, that was awesome. But yeah, everybody else pretty much covered.
Everybody poops.
Yeah, everybody poops.
I read that in a book.
One little tag along with cinematography, though, I did notice as well when they were meeting up with some of the people, the camera angle was from their perspective, and they were looking
Yeah.
up at
Oh, yeah,
at the ladies.
Which, like,
Just
is
adds
really
a little
intimidating, right? Like, it shows how intimidating, an adult can be looking down at a kid. Like,
Especially a white woman in that context.
yeah, catching
No.
you pilfering eggs from her coop.
Yeah.
It made it ominous even when she was supplying them with food and coats.
Yeah,
It still had that like air of danger when this person is helping you.
yeah.
So there's something I noticed too. I don't have any real dislikes outside of just not feeling comfortable with the subject matter, but that just speaks to the movie and how
Yeah.
well it did what it was doing.
I mean, the reason you're so uncomfortable with the subject matter, Mark, is because of the atrocities that you've committed against the Aboriginal people, and
It's guilt. It's guilt.
We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
Like, Mark has done a lot of bad things on a lot of continents.
Yep.
And it's not limited just to here in North America.
They call me the bushwhacker.
I thought they called you Mr. Pig.
Is that what they call you?
Well, we got different names.
Anthony Starr
Oh, yeah.
Hey, you know what? You're just jealous. You're just jealous.
of the Bushwhacker.
That was my Anthony Starr moment. Okay, everybody needs to have a star moment. I had my 15 minutes. You're still looking for yours. That was mine, and I'm going to ride that shit.
He enjoyed it for 15 whole minutes,
And I-
Jason.
You know what I enjoyed for even longer than 15 minutes was the movie Stardust.
Yeah, I would say conclusively a great movie that I enjoyed from beginning to end, not just 15 minutes of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't agree.
That's the one that Michelle Pfeiffer's in.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, she's great. She's great, but nobody's perfect. So,
I'd say Michelle Pfeiffer is pretty fucking close.
Is about as close to perfect as you can get. She kept Harrison Ford in check in that water movie.
Yeah.
yeah, but didn't she do that that pussy movie, Catwoman? She was a Catwoman. She was a fucking Catwoman.
Both of us were completely
I had
lost.
no idea what the fuck you were saying.
No idea where that was going.
And also, no, that was Halle Berry.
Depends. No, I'm right.
Not my Catwoman.
My Catwoman.
That
Oh,
t-shirt.
fuck. Oh, God.
Jesus.
Both of them were so bad. So bad.
What?
I mean, sexy, but so bad.
Yeah.
Okay. No dislikes.
Nope.
Well, I got a wee bit, but are we ready to move on to Don Quixotes?
I believe so.
Yes.
Great.
Very well, I accept.
I hope that delay makes it to the final cut.
I might have to take a few minutes off of it, but
Everybody needs a trim.
Shave it down.
All right. I've got a quick quote here. Like we mentioned in the beginning, there was that slideshow that was discussing the fractioning off of blood that was deemed less pure. And out of that came a quick quote. The Aboriginal has been bred out. And that was just such a disgusting, entry point into this movie that it just, I had to write it down because it was just fucking absurd, man.
Yeah, you can kind of see the power dynamics and sort of what's happening, but you're right, that is sort of the first quote that sort of punches you in the gut, and you're like, oh no, here's the fucking racism. They're just calling it what it is right now. Yeah, it makes you stand up and pay attention, that's for sure.
Yeah, and sticking on the racism train.
Doot doot.
Oh yay, Thomas.
That was a full 7 for you?
7 quotes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Obviously.
Yes.
Jackson, how many do you have?
I have 7 as well.
That's fucked up.
Yeah. So here's all 7 of them. There's a scene in the very early parts of the movie before the girls get taken. Maud, Molly's mother, is in the ration line. And there's this guy at the Jigalong station that is, kind of working for the bad guys, but not really. He manages the Jigalong station, and that's just a communication station along the line.
I would say he was morally a net positive character.
Yeah.
Because he did actually in one of the first scenes, he kind of warned them. He was like, you should hide those girls because they're good looking for them.
So that's the scene that I'm talking about, because he's like, hey, the policemen are out looking for these half-castes, and Maud just looks up at him and smiles and says, you tell that Mr. Devil he wants a half-caste kid, he make his own.
Jokes!
Which is funny but dark.
Yeah.
But
she's
still funny.
She's basically saying, he can have my girls over my fucking dead body.
Well, she's also saying, you want half-caste kids? You're half the equation right there.
Come make one!
Go that's so...
It's so fucked up.
It's so fucked up. Let's see. So you guys both had 7 quotes, and you're not going to believe this. I also had 3 quotes.
No shit.
Wait, what?
So here's all 7 of my 3.
Okay.
And let me just preface this by saying, they're a laugh riot. You guys are going to be
rolling, clutching my sides
with laughter, because this is a very, it's a quippy movie.
I got the fits of giggles already.
Yeah, no, it's a laugh.
I'm primed.
Amazon, if you're listening, feel free to sponsor us.
Jackson's primed.
Jackson's primed. Okay, the first quote is in, I think, the first scene where we see Mr. Neville, played by Kenneth Branagh, and they're discussing the girls before they actually go and abduct them. And he's kind of going through their cards that has their information on it, and it's so fucked up. And he's talking about wanting them taken, especially Daisy, who's the 4-year-old, because, quote, she's promised to a full blood.
Unfucking real.
That's some Harry Potter level
evil,
pure blood type fucking line. Basically she has been sold to a white family to be their slave.
At 4 years old.
At 4 years old. But it also shows she's a commodity.
Yeah.
She clearly her trading card is out there and people are bidding on it. And she has been, quote, promised to a pure blood. Oh, for fuck's sake, that's gross.
Comes right off the heels of the fractioning off of the blood. So it's not necessarily as a slave. It's with the intent that she will produce offspring
that are less aboriginal than she is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
but also as a slave, right? She's also she's working there definitely without pay for the rest of her natural born life. So my second quote, second of my 7.
Yeah.
It's the second day that they're at the camp. I don't even know what the fuck to call it. School. It's not a school. The fucking prison camp, whatever.
It was called Moore River Camp.
Yeah, which sounds like it could be a summer camp.
Yeah.
And they teach you archery and fucking canoeing. Mm-hmm. It is anything but that.
Nope.
So, the second day after they get to the camp, Molly is just laying in her bed with her cousin, and her sister is sort of passed out on her, and she's just quietly saying to herself, "Bad place, make me sick. Bad people, make me sick." And she's just saying it to herself, almost as a chant or a mantra.
Like a mantra, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just it's so dark to see a 14-year-old in very simple terms describe what this place is doing to her.
And she's only been there for a day or so.
Yeah. She knows exactly what this place is and what it's doing, even after only a day or two. My last quote, the third of the 7, is when she finally reunites with her mother and grandmother. The youngest, Daisy, is hugging her mother, and Molly ends up hugging her grandmother. And as they're sort of embracing, it's a very, like, happy, very joyous, very, like, emotional moment. Molly is, like, crying, and you think it's, like, elation, which it is, partly. But she starts to speak, and she says to her grandmother, I lost one. And she's talking about Gracie, and it is the most heartbreaking thing that, like, she's basically reporting on how well she feels like she did as a protector.
Because she was responsible for them.
A big sister, and she feels like she failed because she lost one of them. Oh my God. Just gut-wrenching. On that happy note, who wants to rate the movie? Yeah.
Yeah, boy.
Okay, I'm very interested in hearing what Mark gives this movie. So, Jackson, go ahead.
Okay.
Ass.
I'm going to give this might be coming out of left field, but I'm going to give this 8.1 fried kangaroo tails.
Nice. I believe they were roasted, but sure.
Fuck
Just being a dick.
you.
Oh, kangaroo tails?
Yes!
I mean, I'm happy. I'm happy that we're on the same fucking wave. But get off my wave.
All right, Mark. So, what did you have? I had.
No, keep it up because.
Oh, do you not have the thing?
Well, I had the thing.
Oh yeah, now you need a new thing.
I reached into my fucking panties.
There's a couple. I think a good couple of objects here. I am gonna give this movie a 7.8 jigalongs because I like saying jigalong.
Jigalong is a fun word.
Jigalong is a fun word. I feel like if I dropped that in casual conversation, people would.
It sounds racist.
It does sound racist.
Does it sound racist? Maybe I should change it. Oh, no. I wasn't going to say that. I was going to say people would think...
No. Out of context, I would say if you just dropped it
I know
I
know the word that you're thinking of that I'm not going to say on the podcast.
Why not?
I feel like if you were to say that in casual conversation, it would belie the, like, serious origin of, like... The first time I heard that word was about this horrible movie where, like, these kids get abducted and then they have to walk across a fucking desert for, like, 1,000 miles to get back to their family. Like,
right.
And then people would be like, yeah, but it's jigalong, jigalong.
Sounds like another word, and I'm not going to say the word.
Why we keep dancing?
Should I go with Perth?
No. You stepped in it.
Did I?
Now you gotta.
Stepped in the jigalong.
Yeah.
I think that just made it so much worse.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah, thanks for dancing around it correctly.
Thank you.
I'm smelling what you're stepping in right now.
Is it jigalong?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go 7.7 boobs. Okay? Not the boobs that you might be thinking.
That's clever. That's clever.
Yeah.
I'm going with the boob, which was the shack that you were sent to after you did something wrong.
Not the boob box.
Not the boob box.
I do appreciate that they didn't explain why it was called the boob.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure they had a reason. I'm sure that came from something. Or, like, maybe that's, Australian slang for some shit that, like, makes a perfect sense to an Australian. But, like...
Australians don't have slang. What are you talking about?
Maybe...
That's half their fucking language.
Maybe it was slang for boo box.
Yeah, maybe they watched Hook.
Maybe they did watch Hook. That must have been it. I think that Robin Williams' vehicle had a large play in 1931 in Australia.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. All right, cool. So, we got a 7.7, a 7.8.
And an 8.1.
That's pretty tight.
Yeah.
I think we're done, though.
Yeah, I'm out this biatch.
Okay,
Yeah.
Bye. Oh, wait, come back.
I'm going.
Oh, no, come back.
I'm back. Hey,
Oh, he's back. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, thank God. We forgot something.
What did we forget?
I think we forgot a scene score.
Scene score.
Taking that bitch on the road. Okay, thank you to everybody who filled out our movie familiarity survey. You're the real treasures.
Absolutely.
You're the real jigalongs.
I want to put you in a chest.
You really like that word.
You're the real jigalong.
He's real happy.
Taking it back.
He's going to use that word as much as he can because after tonight, it goes back to sounding a little uncomfortable.
It also kind of sounds like juggalo, which is a thing that people who paint their face say.
It's also uncomfortable sometimes.
Is it?
Well,
Is that not a good word anymore?
Well, no, I think it's fine, but, like, I've met some juggalos, and, like, it's a 50-50. Sometimes they're uncomfortable. Sometimes they're great.
Mark, categorically, you have lost us Alabama, Japan, Germany. I believe you lost us Iceland at one point.
I lost us.
And now juggalos.
The whole gathering is done with us.
Terrible. This is terrible.
To be fair, Juggalo Tim, I met you once. I don't think you're watching this movie. I met a man who referred to himself as Juggalo Tim. Shook my hand.
There are some.
Did you wash that hand?
I should have.
Tim?
Juggalo Tim?
Yeah.
Okay, so to all of you who responded to the movie familiarity survey, you're probably not Juggalo Tim. But if you are, thank you, Juggalo Tim.
Yeah, why not?
Is Juggalo Tim, is that a band name?
I feel like it needs
just
to
by
be.
himself, Juggalo Tim.
He's always by himself. This is a real person that I've met, and I'm sorry, Mr. Tim. Can I just call you Jug for short? Sorry, not sorry.
Average familiarity with this movie of all of our respondents was a 0.5 out of 10.
That actually doesn't shock me.
So
Pretty low.
was it like one person had like heard the name of the movie on the wind?
I believe that was the case.
Yeah.
I believe they put their ear to a fence and heard something about rabbits, and they thought, I heard of that.
Have we ever gotten a 0? Like
Duck
a flat
season.
0?
Duck season.
I can't remember. I feel like we may have gotten one once. I don't think so, though.
We'll have to pour over the data to find out.
Yeah,
but I don't think we've hit a flat
We've had a
0
couple of
yet.
very close calls.
Even Lowe had somebody front.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I
I don't know if I buy that. That's a potential 0.
We don't get to make that call.
Nope.
Our average score across the three of us, and, we're always right. So
Yeah.
just take that with...
Sometimes left.
Depends on which pant leg is available.
I mean, what's left when you're always right?
Right?
You know?
Left?
Yeah. Who's on first?
Exactly. Our average score was a 7.9.
Solid.
Respectable. So the scene score gets a pretty substantial punch up because of that low familiarity. Scene score of 9.0, 9 flat.
Ooh,
on
not
this.
our highest, but definitely close.
It's up there.
Yeah.
It's up there.
But
top 3?
Mucho good. I would say probably top 3 of our scene scores.
I'm going to remember this movie.
Oh, absolutely. Believe it or not, I feel like this is one of the very few movies that my wife would actually watch willingly.
Lies and slander.
I know.
Yeah, I do think, though, that this movie fits the criteria of the podcast really well. That, like, this is a movie that you can pull out of your back pocket and somebody's like, oh, can you give me a movie that I haven't seen that you think I'd like? And if in sort of probing them for their likes, they say things like, I like biopics, I like period pieces, I like historical true stories, that kind of thing. Fucking lay this on them and you'll blow them away.
Absolutely.
It's really awesome. Okay, are we Lurdern?
I think so.
We ready to rock and roll Obama?
Boom.
Thank you all for listening. That is all for the Alt Crep Review. If you have any ideas for movie reviews, or if you want to get involved and contribute to the scene score and get a peek at upcoming movies by taking our short weekly-ish movie familiarity survey, maybe a little less weekly recently, but...
A little more ish.
Yeah, a little bit more ish, but it's getting there. It's getting there, and it might be a little bit more weekly in the future. Email us at 3, that is the number 3, menandabasement at gmail.com, or you can find us on our website, tmaab.podbean.com. TMAAB stands for 3 Men and a Basement. Oh, Mark went Karate Man on that.
Yeah.
It's aggressive.
Also, on tour now, we've got Tracker Girl. And
yeah, she'll find you.
Yeah, no matter where the show is, she will show up, and she will find you and play you a song, whether you want her to or not, basically.
This guy have like a bard kind of vibe to it, I think.
A minstrel.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
Bard or minstrel.
Yeah, both are applicable.
A minstrel.
A minstrel.
Yes. New category.
That sounds offensive.
I am just like
It's
0
on
for
brand.
2 today. I got Jigalong and minstrel.
I don't know how someone would feel if I called them a minstrel.
They'd raise an eyebrow.
They'd probably be confused and lightly offended.
Should I be offended?
All I'm saying is that I will be casually dropping Jigalong and minstrel in everyday
recommend it.
conversation.
I don't recommend
I feel like minstrel is one of those that very heavily relies on tone and context. Like, if I were to be like, oh, you're such a minstrel.
Bitch.
Like, it would be like,
Bitch.
like, what does that mean? But if I'm like, oh, you're definitely a minstrel. That's like nasty.
Uh-oh, am I? Oh, no.
You don't want that.
I can't believe it.
Such a minstrel.
Also, on stage 2, we've got crabs with feelings.
Oh, yeah, we do.
That's the itch you won't forget.
They got the pinch.
Why does it sound like a tagline for a commercial? Crabs with feelings. The itch you won't forget.
I'd buy that for $1.
I'd buy that for $1.
And their single also coming out, Crabs in the Cave. Mm-hmm. Bats in the Belfry, Butterflies in the Stomach, Crabs in the Cave.
From top to bottom.
Goop-a-doop.
Nuts in the sack.
And then we've also got, on stage 3, you really don't have to go and see him, but Juggalo Tim is also, he's there.
He's always there.
He's there.
You walk away.
He's actually not performing on stage 3. Stage 3 is vacant, and he just climbed up on the stage
He
and
won't
is just there.
leave.
He's cosplaying.
It's method.
It's all 3 are on tour now, and you can also find us, the 3 men, the Ultra Crepidarians, on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, the YouTubes,
All of them.
wherever you find your podcasts.
iHeartRadio.
And until then, I'm Colin McLeod.
McCup.
Yeah. Action Jackson.
And we'll see you in cyberspace.
Reznor.
Binstrel.
With the newer one.